Protein is now at Starbucks, and it's never tasted so good. You can add protein cold foam to your favorite drink or try one of our new protein lattes or matcha. Try it today at Starbucks.
This Mother's Day, celebrate the woman who's been there through it all with Pandora Jewelry. Choose jewelry that reflects the love you share and the moments that matter most. Make it even more meaningful with engraving, a name, a date, or a message just for her. Because the best Mother's Day gift says more than I love you. It says, I see you. Find the perfect Mother's Day gift at your local Pandora store or tap the banner.
Welcome to the All Things Nintendo podcast. I'm Brian Shea, and this is a weekly podcast to discuss all the biggest news and games from the world of Nintendo. It is a big one in the world of Nintendo this week as we have the Super Mario Galaxy movie out in theaters as you are listening to this episode. I went to an early screening, got to sit down with Kyle Hilliard, my Game Informer co-worker, as well as Alex Van Aken and MinMax's Ben Hansen for an early look at the movie. In the latter half of this episode, we actually recorded an in-person review with me and Kyle, sitting down and discussing our immediate reaction to the Super Mario Galaxy movie. That will be in the main segment of this episode. But first, I wanted to talk just a little bit about the recent leaks out of Nintendo. Obviously, all reported stuff. It's nothing confirmed. But I wanted to just hop on here and give my thoughts about what that means if it ends up being true. And we're just going to kind of talk a little bit about that. And then also I want to shine a light on a game that I've been playing a lot of and I am really enjoying. It's called Deadzone Rogue. And it just recently was featured on the Nintendo Indie World presentation. And I have been playing it a decent amount, and I'll be chatting a little bit about that before we throw to that in-person review of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. So for this first segment, it's just going to be me. No other guests are going to be here until the second half of the show when Kyle Hilliard joins me for that Mario Galaxy movie review. But first, I just want to talk a little bit about the leaks that hit recently in the world of Nintendo. It hit shortly after I published last week's episode of All Things Nintendo. And basically, it was leaker Nate the Hate. He was on a podcast, and he has a pretty decent track record of the leaks that of like Nintendo announcements and various things that might be coming from Nintendo. And I went through and read the report, and it all seems relatively reasonable. And we'll talk about why I think that's all reasonable and why that loops in with the Super Mario Galaxy movie as well. So very much looking forward to breaking that down. And, let's jump right into it before we get into any housekeeping stuff. Basically, this report came out and Nate the Hate said, we're going to get a Star Fox game this summer. We're going to get a remake of The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time this holiday season. And then we should be getting a new 3D Mario game next year. So again, all of that is unconfirmed from our side, unconfirmed from my side, and unsubstantiated outside of this leaker's track record. And again, primarily, I think that he's one of the more reliable leakers out there. So take all of this with a grain of salt. None of this is officially announced. It's just stuff that is coming out of, known insiders. And Video Game Chronicle also said they were able to independently verify these leaks, and they also have a very good track record. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time now that, multiple people, multiple insiders have verified it from independently and making it so that they have done their due diligence. I wanted to just talk a little bit about, if that is true, why it makes sense. And for me, it all starts looking back at the Super Mario Brothers movie. You look at that movie, right? And the main characters are Mario, Luigi, Donkey Kong, and Peach. I think those are the four main characters. Obviously, Toad is in there, and other characters pop up. But I would say, if you had to chisel it down to four main characters: Mario, Luigi, Donkey Kong, and Peach. Now, look at what they did in the year and a half or so following the release of the let's say 2 years following the release of the Super Mario Brothers movie back in 2023. So later that year, we got Super Mario Brothers Wonder. Makes perfect sense, right? Capitalize on the popularity of Mario, which was at an all-time high, coming out of a movie that grossed $1.3 billion. So that makes sense, right? Then they dive a little bit deeper into the character roster. So we got Mario versus Donkey Kong, which that is a core element of the Super Mario Brothers movie, is Mario facing off against Donkey Kong. So we got a remake of a Game Boy Advance game. All right, that could just be a coincidence. Then right around that time, we also got Princess Peach Showtime, which was the first game starring Princess Peach in 20 years almost? Probably a little bit shorter than that, because it was Super Princess Peach was the last time she had a starring role in like an action game. So Princess Peach Showtime comes out. And then shortly after that, we get Luigi's Mansion 2 HD. So they are within a year of Super Mario Brothers movie coming out, capitalizing on all of these beloved characters who, have been around for 40 years now, but they have been, underserved, I think, in terms of starring roles. Then you fast forward, and they're still riding the momentum of Donkey Kong, especially because then what's the big release for the Nintendo Switch 2? It's Mario Kart World, sure, but Donkey Kong Bonanza, I think, was the first game that made people say, "Hey, like this new system actually might have something cool that is worth picking up the new system for." So that makes sense for why Nintendo kind of wanted to ride the momentum of the very, very successful Super Mario Brothers movie. So now let's fast forward to 2026. The Super Mario Galaxy movie is out in theaters now, and I know that the movie is out, the marketing is out there. We didn't spoil it on last week's episode, but I'm going to spoil that cameo that was popping up on social media for the Super Mario Galaxy movie right here, so I can further discuss why this might all be connected. And that is, before we do that, give people a second to pause the podcast or fast forward a little bit. Timestamps are in the description as always. But it was shown in the official marketing, so I don't even know if you can call that a spoiler. I'm just trying to be extra cautious because I know how people get, and I do think that it would be a very cool reveal if this was in the movie without having it be spoiled before that. So, Super Mario Galaxy movie features Fox McCloud. We know that from the marketing. We know that from social media posts. And they would obviously, why would they shoehorn in the leader of Star Fox into a Mario movie if they aren't trying to raise brand awareness? I think that it makes too much sense that they would want to get Fox McCloud in front of everyone and have him be one of the faces of what is sure to be one of the highest grossing animated movies of all time. If, my guest last week, Victor Lucas, predicted it's going to be the highest grossing animated film of all time when it's all said and done. And it's either way. It's either going to be one of or the most successful animated movies in box office history as of 2026. So it makes so much sense that Nintendo has this Star Fox game almost ready to go. The report is summer 2026 that we are getting this Star Fox game. First Star Fox game since the Wii U. So we skipped the entire Switch generation. Star Fox Zero, obviously not the game that everybody wanted, but it's the last time that Nintendo tried to do anything meaningful with Star Fox outside of Super Smash Brothers. And it kind of, it pretty much flopped. It didn't help that it was on Nintendo's worst console since the Virtual Boy, but it it was a flop one way or the other. Whether you're talking critical reception, fan reception, or sales, it was a flop by pretty much every measure. And so Nintendo's kind of shelved Star Fox outside of Super Smash Brothers, and suddenly Fox McCloud is in the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Why would they go out of their way to not only get Fox in this movie that is going to be in front of millions upon millions of people, but also get a high profile voice actor in Glenn Powell to voice him? And I think the reason inevitably has to be that they are gearing up to get this franchise back on track, hopefully giving it another lease on life. I don't know what form that's going to take. It could be something like a remake of Star Fox 64. This is not reported as far as I know what the game is. It could be something completely new. It could be, just them trying to recapture the glory years. If you listen to the episode, I guess a couple months ago now, where I talked about First Squadron Phoenix, which is an indie developed spiritual successor / love letter to the Star Fox franchise. My conclusion after playing through that game and reviewing it for Game Informer is there is still so much life left in that style of gameplay and so much gas in the tank for the Star Fox franchise. Like, First Squadron Phoenix is a very good spiritual successor, but if Nintendo can crack the code to deliver a very good Star Fox game that feels like it is a worthy follow-up to Star Fox 64, then I think that it will blow everybody else out of the water in that regard. But that's the main reason. I'm looking at pattern recognition here, where the Super Mario Brothers movie showed us that they are going to try to capitalize on the increased mainstream awareness of these characters by releasing games that star those characters. I don't know how successful or unsuccessful those games ended up being, but I assume that, it's the best shot that Star Fox will have is following the Super Mario Galaxy movie. And, I think that's why that is going to be scheduled for this summer, because the Super Mario Galaxy movie will still be fresh on the minds of so many people. And by introducing Star Fox or introducing Fox McCloud in that movie, people are going to see a new game on either store shelves or the eShop with Fox's face. And they're going to say, oh yeah, I loved him in the Mario Galaxy movie. Let me pick this up. I've never played a game starring him. That's awesome. Let's try that out. And I think that is Nintendo giving them the best chance at success for, a franchise that has been asleep for more than a decade at this point, or I guess about a decade. And if you just bring that back with no fanfare, no like major crossover promotion, then I understand why Nintendo would be trepidatious about that. But instead, what they're doing is very strategic. Shigeru Miyamoto, in an interview with Rolling Stone, said that he is trying everything in his power to include Pikmin in every single Nintendo product that he is able to. And I'm assuming that's because Miyamoto has been on record saying that Pikmin is one of his favorite franchises that he's ever created. It's a very special franchise to him, and he has so much love for it. So, of course, he would want to increase awareness for the Pikmin franchise. I think that Star Fox holds a similarly special place in Shigeru Miyamoto's heart. And I think that he has wanted to crack this Star Fox code so badly. And I wonder if this means that he's confident that the team has found something and they want to get it in front of as many people as humanly possible. So, I mean, that's my speculation. That's my read on it. That's why outside of, trusting some of these reporters, and again, I have not independently verified any of these reported leaks, but it adds up in my mind. So that is the Star Fox aspect of.
This episode is brought to you by Credit Karma. When it comes to your money, Credit Karma keeps you ahead of the game. You can count on Credit Karma to keep up with your financial needs as they evolve, helping you monitor your progress and giving you personalized recommendations so you can make strides towards your goals. Make sure you're on the right track, no matter where you are on your financial journey. Intuit Credit Karma. Karma you can count on. Download today.
The leaks. Now, talking about the Ocarina of Time part, I've touched on this before, but I think that is the right move for the next Zelda game. I think an Ocarina of Time remake is the perfect next move. If Nintendo is wanting to slowly shift away from kind of the wild era of the Zelda franchise. I back in 2023, I interviewed Eiji Aonuma and Hidemaru Fujibayashi, and I asked, is there another sequel? Do you guys have another sequel planned after Tears of the Kingdom? And Eiji Aonuma basically was like, you're talking like a sequel to a sequel, and obviously Zelda is a franchise that doesn't get a ton of direct sequels, but we've gotten a few. We've gotten Majora's Mask, A Link Between Worlds, and Tears of the Kingdom, obviously most recently. So it's not unheard of, but he basically said like a sequel to a sequel in the Zelda franchise is a little wild. Now, it's not the first time he's told me that it is, it's unheard of or like wouldn't be something that would be possible. Flashback to my 2019 interview with Eiji Aonuma, and I asked him about a Skyward Sword remaster without motion controls, and he told me that it would be close to impossible to imagine that game working with just buttons and joysticks. And then you fast forward a couple of years, and he found a way. So it's not unheard of that he could just say like, oh, never mind, we're doing a third entry in the Breath of the Wild series. But I tend to believe that Nintendo and the Zelda team are slowly starting to steer the franchise back to the kind of more not linear. I guess linear is one word for it, but Zelda is not the most linear franchise because you can still go and explore however you want. I mean, that was the very core of the creation of the franchise from Shigeru Miyamoto, is like him going around and exploring in nature. So the reason I think the Ocarina of Time remake makes a ton of sense is that if the Zelda team and Nintendo want to slowly start steering this Legend of Zelda ship back to kind of the more guided format, as opposed to like the wide open wild era format that we've been accustomed to ever since the Switch 1 launched, I think that it makes a lot of sense for all the fans. The Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are among, I think they might be the highest selling Zelda games of all time. And that means that a lot of new people have jumped onto the Zelda ship since the launch of Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which means as far as 3D Zelda games go, and obviously we got Echoes of Wisdom in the time since, but as far as 3D Zelda games go, there's a large portion of this fan base that knows nothing but the wide open version of The Legend of Zelda, as we saw in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. If that team does want to start moving it back to the more traditional style that we've seen in Twilight Princess and Wind Waker, where you acquire a weapon or an item, and that enables you to access a temple, and then you go out and you acquire another item, and that enables you to access the next chronological temple, I think that instead of making an all-new game first, because that might feel like too much of a regression for people who are just completely, their experience with Zelda is just Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, I think they would see that as a step backwards. They would say, the last time I played, I had all this freedom, I had all this ability to walk around and do whatever I wanted. Why am I so restricted now? So by instead taking one of the most beloved games, perhaps the most beloved game of all time. It's certainly one of the most critically acclaimed games, certainly one of the most influential games of all time. But even if you strip all that away, it is known by people who have played it and people who were born after it came out as one of the most legendary and important and well-liked video games ever. And a lot of people will point to it as perhaps the greatest video game of all time. So a way that Nintendo could reintroduce that more traditional Zelda format could be by reintroducing it through the lens of a remade version, a modernized version of what is often considered one of, if not the greatest video games of all time. And because the name Ocarina of Time has such, rapport in the gaming space, even for those who have not played it, they've heard about how legendary and important and amazing this game is, even though it came out 28 years ago. I think that rapport, combined with the fact that it is a remake and it's something that, Nintendo can reintroduce the quote unquote old format of Zelda, introduce that to the people who cut their teeth on Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom through this game that is a remake of an older game. I think that will be a more acceptable way to allow those fans to dip their toe or even just cannonball straight into that older format. And then years from now, I'm assuming, when the next mainline game comes out, if they choose to do the more restricted template that we see in games like Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, Skyward Sword, where it's more linear in the way that you progress through the dungeons, I think the appetite will be there. I think they will not, the people who have played that Ocarina of Time remake, they'll understand the brilliance and the flow of that more traditional Zelda style, and it will be much more palatable for them to go from an Ocarina of Time remake to whatever the next mainline Zelda game is, the next mainline 3D Zelda game is, even if it has that, what we look at as kind of the traditional format. It's much easier for them to go from an Ocarina of Time remake to that than it would be from Tears of the Kingdom, which is just in many ways an antithesis to that restricted progression style. Going from Ocarina of Time to whatever the next one is going to be more palatable than going from Tears of the Kingdom to that next one, if they are in fact dialing back the formula to that more traditional Zelda style. And I also, speaking of the 2023 conversation, and we'll close on this because I've already talked at length about how when I asked Eiji Aonuma in 2019 about the Skyward Sword remaster possibility, he said it was close to impossible. And then I followed up with him in 2023 and I said, hey, like, what changed? And he basically said, like, oh, well, when you brought that up, I did think it was close to impossible. But then I went home and basically started thinking about like ways that I could accomplish it. And after thinking about it, I came up with ways that we could do it. And that's the end result is Skyward Sword HD on Switch. So that's cool. 2023, my second time interviewing Eiji Aonuma and Hidemaru Fujibayashi. The first time was around the launch of Tears of the Kingdom, and the second time was at the Game Awards. I asked Eiji Aonuma at the very end. It was almost a joke question. It was a throwaway line. It was inspired by an interview I had with the legendary Final Fantasy producer and director Yoshinori Kitase, who is the director of Final Fantasy VI. He's the director of Final Fantasy X, several others. He produces the series now. But one of the most legendary figures in Final Fantasy history. He's up there with Hironobu Sakaguchi and Tetsuya Nomura, and now Naoki Hamaguchi. All of those people are the shepherds of the Final Fantasy franchise. But in my conversations with Yoshinori Kitase, he let me know that the Final Fantasy VII remake trilogy was originally conceived because he was on a press tour in the US for Final Fantasy 13. And this is back in 2011, 2012. And reporters in the US kept asking about the possibility of a Final Fantasy VII remake. And because he kept getting those questions thrown at him, he said, well, that planted the seed in my brain and it started getting me thinking about how we could pull it off. And then I went back to Japan, talked to Tetsuya Nomura, and he was already thinking of ways that they could pull it off. So it was partially inspired by the US media asking them, are you ever going to remake Final Fantasy VII? So fast forward to 2023, I was sitting down for the second time with Hidemaru Fujibayashi and Eiji Aonuma, and I closed out my interview with a little bit of a joke question, but I said, I've heard from other developers that sometimes the media asking questions about a game they'd like to see inspires that game to be made. So I want to ask you now to close this interview, are you ever going to develop a remake to the Ocarina of Time? And Eiji Aonuma laughed and then in English said, no comment. Now, that could mean anything. And I'm not going to do the Zapruder film of analyzing every little thing that was said. There are YouTubers out there that will do that, and they have. There are certain YouTubers who have dissected every line of that interview, and I appreciate them, calling it out, giving it credit. That was very nice of them. But there is something there where, I've asked questions about that to other developers and they brush it off as like, oh no, we don't have any plans for that at this time. But, there was a tacit acknowledgement that, that is something that fans would want. And that was, 2.5 years ago now. So I would imagine that if this leak is in fact true, that was probably, the early stages of the main development of that game whenever I asked that question in December of 2023. So I don't think that it is, set in stone that this is happening, but I do think that based on the sourcing, based on the reporters that are bringing it, based on the leaker with a track record, I tend to lean towards it's more likely than not that it is reliable. Now, I don't have much to say about the final part of the leak, which is that we are not getting a 3D Mario game until 2027, aside from the fact that, we did just get a 2025 3D platformer from the Mario Odyssey team, from what the 3D Mario team for all intents and purposes. I talked to Kenta Motokura in San Francisco, and, they've been working on Donkey Kong Bonanza for quite a while. But we are coming up on the 10-year anniversary, a little bit more than a year from now. We're coming up on, or I guess a little bit more than a year from now, I'm sorry, on the 10-year anniversary of Super Mario Odyssey. And that will have been a massive gap between 3D Mario games. Now, you can count Bowser's Fury, which I do. I count that as a 3D Mario game, but it's not a full game, right? That is a side release to a re-release, a side game that is included with a re-release, almost like how Sonic X Shadow Generations. There's Sonic Generations, the remaster, and then a whole new version of a game built within that same engine to be included in this remaster package. So I consider that a 3D Mario game. I consider it a mainline 3D Mario game, but it's not a full scope 3D Mario game. So we're coming up next year on the 10-year anniversary of the last full 3D Mario game. And, that is really wild to think about, considering that, we got 2 3D Mario games on the Wii, and it's kind of absurd that it has taken this long, but I get it. They wanted to try something new with Donkey Kong, having that be Donkey Kong Bonanza. And if that ends up being true, I would assume Nintendo has something pretty amazing in store for us. So, those are my thoughts on the leaks. That went a little bit longer than I expected. But before we jump into Deadzone Rogue, and the eventual review of the Super Mario Galaxy movie, just want to give my standard reminder that this episode and this show is brought to you by the fine folks over on the All Things Nintendo Patreon page, Without their support, this show literally would not exist. There's $3 tier that gets you access to the community Discord, $5 tiers that get you early and ad-free episodes, and $10 tiers that get you shout outs at the end of every show. Plus, this is new, I just started revitalizing the Patreon exclusive show for the $10 patrons of the All Things Nintendo podcast. It's called All Things Gamers. It used to be a weekly show, but ever since Game Informer came back, I just don't have the time, unfortunately, to do 2 weekly shows. So what I'm doing is basically I'm hopping on, and whenever I have something I want to talk about, I'm going to do that. So it's going to be an audio show. It'll probably be about I don't want to put too strict of a time on it, but I put one out this past Saturday for the $10 patrons of the show, and I actually gave it to every Patreon person, paid Patreon supporter. And, I gave my early impressions of Tomodachi Life. I talked a little bit kind of about the same topic about the leaks, but going forward, it might take different, all kinds of different forms. We could do Q&As over there. I could have guests come on. We could do all kinds of fun stuff over on All Things Gamers. It's called that very intentionally because it allows me to cover all kinds of platforms. It just so happens that this first one back was a Nintendo focused episode. It's just because that's what was on my mind, and I wanted to get that out there early for the Patreon supporters. Going forward, it's just going to be for the $10 patrons of the All Things Nintendo podcast. So if you want to join that tier, you can go to patreon.com and search for the All Things Nintendo podcast or Brian Shea. And again, it's only because of the people who support me on this podcast and listen to it on whatever show you're listening to or whatever platform you listen to, and support me on Patreon, that I'm able to keep doing it month after month, week after week. All right, so moving forward to the final thing we want to talk about before we get into our main talker, which is a review of the Super Mario Galaxy movie, is this game called Deadzone Rogue. So this was a game that came out already on other platforms, but it just made its debut on the Switch 2. And I've got to say, I am very much enjoying my time with it. I think I called it out in the Indie World presentation episode of this podcast that I thought it looked a little bit generic, right? It's a sci-fi shooter, first-person shooter, and you're running around shooting robots and other creatures. And, it just looked so like kind of standard FPS, like sci-fi FPS. And I was like, that looks like the least remarkable thing on this Indie World stream. Then I got my hands on it in San Francisco back when I was out in GDC, and I was like, oh, there's something here. Like I'm actually really enjoying the gameplay. The shooting mechanics are really good, and I'm enjoying the gameplay loop. It's a roguelite structure. So, as you go on your run, you find upgrades, you get like resources that you gather from killing robots, and then you can find loot. And at the end of every room, it's a room-based thing. So you go room by room. They're bite-sized rooms. The rooms probably last a couple minutes at most, unless it's a boss room. And then at the end of every room, you get a crate that either has a weapon, a perk, or something else that's going to help you in your run. So, you can upgrade your common secondary weapon to like a rare pistol or a rare submachine gun, or, trade out your shotgun that you have that's, a common rarity to an uncommon assault rifle, then up to a rare sniper rifle. A lot of it is luck of the draw, but that makes it so much fun to use the drops that you get to craft a compelling loadout that's going to allow you to be super productive and super, set yourself up for success in this run. And then, inevitably you're going to die, and then you respawn at the very beginning, and then you can use all the resources that you gathered, all the currency. So I think there's tech, and then there's like parts, I think it is, and you can use those to upgrade your skill tree. So those are things like, your damage is better, or your armor is better, or your shields are better, or your elemental damage is better. And or you can even just do like you get more resources from killed enemies, or you pick up resources from further away. And all of that just makes your next run feel that much better, because you're going to make it further, barring any kind of catastrophic RNG problem that you have as you get your crates and defeat enemies and all that. Like you have to rely on some good drops. That's the roguelite experience at its core. Now, all of that would be meaningless if the gameplay and the way that you progress through the game felt bad. But thankfully, it feels really good. Like there are so many weapons that feel great to shoot. The enemies make a satisfying like pop when they die, and watching them kind of explode like a piñata just always feels super good. And it's just a game that I thought I was going to, at first I thought I was going to be completely apathetic to it. Then when I got my hands on a preview of the game last month, I was like, oh, there might be something here. Now I cannot wait to, finish the work that I need to finish and jump into this game and do a couple of runs either before or after dinner. It's just, a really fun experience. I think that the developers found a really great sweet spot. Some of the enemy types are a little annoying. Like there's these spiders that I'm dealing with right now that are extremely annoying. They shoot like projectiles at you and can web you, and they're just relentless. But, it's all about solving that puzzle and cracking that code and setting yourself up for success and finding the right weapons, finding the right elements. Like do you want to use lightning? Do you want to use incendiary? Do you want to use void damage? And, you can also spec yourself to be melee or stealth or all kinds of ways. It's a very, very fun experience. And I wish I played it sooner. I wish I played it on other platforms, because I probably would have really enjoyed it on those as well. I don't know how much they've updated it in the time since it came to those platforms, but I am very high on this game. And I think that if you're a fan of roguelites, if you're a fan of first person shooters, I think it's worth a look. I don't let me see how much it is right now, because I don't think it's super expensive. Also there is co-op if you want to play that way, but yeah, it's $25. You could do a lot worse with $25 than picking up Deadzone Rogue. But yeah, it's kind of like an eShop gem of the week pick for me. And it came out on Switch 2 March 17th. When did it come to PlayStation? I think it was last year. Deadzone Rogue PlayStation. On PlayStation, it came out up to 3 players with online. But it came out September 2025. But yeah, I mean, I really am enjoying it so far. I'm not at a place where I can deliver a full review, but when I am, I'm going to publish that on GameInformer.com. So you can look forward to that going forward. But for now, we are going to take our only break of this episode. And when we get back, I will be joined live in person at the Imagine Willow Creek movie theater's party room that they so graciously allowed us to film our review segment of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. I'll be back with Kyle Hilliard in just a moment after this musical break.
Refreshing wild cherry cola meets smooth cream. The treat you deserve. Pepsi Wild Cherry and Cream. Treat yourself.
We are back, and we just got out of a screening of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. I'm now joined in person by Game Informer's own Kyle Hilliard. Kyle, how are you doing?
Hello, I'm doing good. I just saw the Super Mario Galaxy movie. I had to double check the title. I wanted to be sure. Yeah, we're seeing it a little early, thanks to Imagine Plymouth. I guess.
Willow Creek.
Imagine
Willow Creek and Universal. Universal.
Okay, yeah, a nice theater. Genuinely, a really good screen. I was very happy with the quality of the picture.
Yes.
And
we're going to start this conversation spoiler free, and then eventually we will transition to spoilers. So just be warned, at a certain point, I will make it very clear that we are going to be talking spoilers at a certain point in this. But Kyle, overall thoughts, spoiler free for now.
Overall thoughts, it's okay. I think I did like it more than the first one, which, I mean, we'll go into it in spoilers, but there's just a lot more. It almost felt like, let's not worry about story so much, and let's just kind of get as much stuff in here as we can.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of stuff, and there was a lot of stuff that was like fun to see, and like stuff that didn't really make sense that kind of got wedged in there. But it was a little bit of kind of the mind of like, that's okay. Like that, I'm just kind of here to see the beautiful looking movie, which it is. And yeah, like I'm not over the moon for it. I didn't like love it or anything, but I enjoyed it. Overall, I enjoyed it, I think. What about you? Where are you at?
Yeah, so I appreciated how, like, they jump right into the action here.
Oh, yeah.
There's no real setup. It's like, yeah, you guys probably saw the first movie. You're just going to continue that, and it's going to be a grander scale. It's going to be more characters. It's going to be some unnecessary stuff, but it's usually in the name of fun, which I can get over that in this movie. A couple moments where it's like, yeah, this is obviously a kid's movie.
Yeah, arbitrary is the word I would use. It's like we're just kind of here for no particular reason. Yeah, kids movie, and I don't like to use that pejoratively because like there's a lot of kids movies I love, and just because a movie is for a kid doesn't mean that it's like should be bad or like talk down to kids or anything. But this one did feel more like, oh, this is like I just feel like this one's more kid focused than maybe the first one,
So there were some moments where I'm like, I could see like a little kid being kind of scared in this moment. Like there were like 2 or 3 moments where I'm like, that could be a little intense for a kid.
Maybe,
like a small child.
I mean, nothing on like the Luigi stuff in the first one.
Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, no, there was some sort of dark moments. Scary is too strong a word, I think, but dark, yeah.
But yeah, so I think I liked it overall more than the first one as well. But
so.
it doesn't have kind of it's like the old Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom thing, where it's like, yeah, Tears of the Kingdom has some cool things that are better than Breath of the Wild. But Breath of the Wild just made such an impact.
Yes.
And I would say that Mario is kind of the same way, where I probably like Galaxy better than Mario Brothers. But it's like, it doesn't have the novelty of like, wow, we finally have a good Mario movie.
Yeah. Also, the other positive thing I will say is, we kind of briefly talked about it on the way out, but like the music approach, that's weird. What happened there? The music approach was like much better in the sense that like there weren't a bunch of needle drops, right? It was all sort of almost all orchestration. Like there was like one song, maybe 2.
There were 2.
Yeah.
But they made sense.
They were fine. Yeah. Like nothing like aha in the first movie, which that like really bummed me out. I really did not like that, especially when you learned later that it was like they had sort of a Donkey Kong Country inspired orchestration that supposedly went there. So this was much more like, I think they really stuck to like, just like, let's throw a bunch of like, I guess you could call them like musical cameos. Like it's almost like a bummer. Like I almost wanted to hear more of a lot of like the tracks where they made reference to, something we won't spoil yet, but like
there's several games that they pay homage to through both visual and audio cues.
Yeah. So I much prefer that over the first movie.
Absolutely. That was my huge takeaway from the music nerd in me, was just like, this is so much better in terms of like the utilization of the soundtracks. I think the first soundtrack was amazing. It was just like overshadowed by these like really out of place needle drops. And that was not the case here. And when you see the movie yourself, you'll see it and you'll be like, okay, that licensed music does make sense in that place. Whereas it's not the aha take on me while they're driving through Donkey Kong Country.
Yeah, which I mean, not to like berate the first movie, but that felt like such a thing of like, Mario, that game came out in the 80s, right? Like we should probably have like an 80s song. And like that was the extent of it, is what it felt like, But
some executives said, hey, we should have more licensed music. What if we did that instead?
No, bad.
But all right, so that's our general thoughts. We're both pretty positive on it, I think.
Yeah, it's
a few
fine.
nitpicks here and there. As longtime Mario fans, of course, we're going to have some sort of things that we're going to criticize on this. But now we're going to move to the spoiler discussion. And so, I'm going to give a couple seconds here now that I've said that, for anybody who's listening to this who has not seen the movie. to turn off the podcast and come back after you see it, presumably sometime this weekend or in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah.
So 3, 2, 1. All right. We're now going to talk spoilers. And Kyle, let's just address the elephant in the room. Fox McCloud.
Yes.
He is in this movie, as we unavoidably found out on social media.
A natural insertion for Fox McCloud. He feels like he's part of the universe.
It was not at all that. It's very much shoehorned in.
It's fine. Look, Brian, it's fine.
the best criticism is it's fine.
Yeah.
I will say they got the characterization of him great. Glenn Powell does a great job with him, I think. A couple moments where I'm like, that's a little weird, but
don't you think of Fox as like a more stoic guy though? I don't know. I like Fox McCloud in this movie. I really like Glenn Powell's performance, but I mean, he's like a new take on Fox, which is
slightly
fine.
New take.
I guess I just think so much of 64 Fox,
which is what most people think of, to be fair.
Which he's kind of like a stoic sort of like commander. Mm-hmm. And here he's a little goofy, but like, I'm not precious about Fox McCloud,
I am.
Okay.
No, but he played like the cool flyboy, right?
Yes.
Like that's what he was. And I don't know if this is supposed to be a younger version of Fox than what we see in 64. They directly referenced Star Fox 64 with the slippy stuff.
They literally put a screenshot from the N64 game, which is fun.
I mean, they did that for multiple things throughout this movie. With
the N64 logo was in the movie.
That was very strange.
Which was very weird.
I guess they were like, hey, we've got like 3D holograms, so you might as well put the N64 logo. Why not?
That logo is very important to me. I love that logo.
I have
but
a T-shirt with it on it.
It's like, I don't know why you're like a hologram in this city, but okay.
Speaking of things,
it's fine, Brian. It's fine.
I don't know why it was in there.
Yeah.
The casino scene with all the Mario 2 enemies, which I'm happy to see them. I'm excited to see Wart on the screen. But it was like, what is the point behind having these characters here?
Yeah, that was almost worse than like the Pikmin cameo.
Yes, there's a Pikmin cameo.
The Fox McCloud insertion. I would argue that the Mario Brothers 2 stuff was even more wedged and even more arbitrary, because they basically just kind of walked into a casino and had a big fight scene, which, not to derail us too much from the thing we're on, but like one thing that bums me out about the first movie and this one too is that like they have a lot of like fisticuff fight scenes, which are well choreographed. I really like the environmental choreography of like the castle falling apart and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That stuff is cool, but like I don't really think of Mario as like a fighter, as like a brawler. And so I don't really like those scenes where like Bowser Jr. and Mario and Luigi are like fighting, and like Peach is like doing like Crouching Tiger. Like I just don't that just doesn't feel like the characters.
Peach is the greatest martial artist on the planet.
Yeah.
Or in the galaxy.
In the galaxy. Yeah. I don't know. How do you feel about that stuff?
I think it's fine. They've got to figure out something. It's fine.
It's fine.
They've got to figure out some way to make these action scenes, and it can't just be him jumping on his head every single time. So like I get it, and like I don't know, like it's
dramatically like interesting, but like I don't know, it just doesn't. It feels
it's visually interesting.
Yeah.
It shows some meaningful hand-to-hand combat situation, and they always, the thing that I appreciate, they always interweave it with like the power-ups, right? In the first movie, he got the Tanuki tail, and in this one, he got a bunch of different power-ups.
Literally every other one, basically.
But yeah, I mean, I appreciate that like they do take the initiative to, interweave those power-ups and make it so, even though it is like a hand-to-hand combat situation, which, to be fair, Mario 64, very much hand-to-hand combat in a lot of those situations. Like literally his number one move is a punch.
I guess that's true. And you fight those Aztec hands or whatever. I thought that's what you were getting at, but I was like, wait, hold on, that was just one boss fight.
But yeah, so like let's talk a little bit about some of the sets here. So the first of all, a lot of really great Galaxy references. I think a lot of us, when we were seeing the trailers to these movies or this movie, we were like, is this really a Mario Galaxy movie aside from Rosalina being in it? And yes, it absolutely is. Like first and foremost, a Mario Galaxy movie. It pays homage to a lot of other games in the Mario franchise, but Mario Galaxy is absolutely number one. It opens up with a pristine look at an incredibly rendered hub world from Mario Galaxy, Rosalina's ship.
Maybe the exact like from the game. I'm not sure if it's 100%, but it's like, oh, this is how granular we're getting. Cool.
Yeah, they really paid attention to the details with Mario Galaxy specifically.
Yes, a lot of good music too from Galaxy.
Yeah. Number 2 game that I think they paid homage to is Mario Odyssey. Like the first time we see Mario and Luigi and eventually Yoshi is in Tostarena, the Sand Kingdom from Odyssey. We get the dinosaur from Odyssey. We get the dragon from Odyssey.
Which there's a big purple dragon in the movie, and right when the credits like started, I leaned over to you and I was like, "Is that supposed to be Ridley? Is that?" And then you made the good point that's like, "No, I think that's the dragon from Odyssey because it is purple." But yeah, I had forgotten about that Odyssey dragon until you mentioned it, and I think you're probably right. Yeah,
and they had another Galaxy moment, even though it wasn't like the Comet Festival or whatever. In the game, it was what that was. It was Peach's birthday party, but it was still a similar type of thing where it's like, all right, the Lumas are coming, and they say, hey, we need your help, and then Bowser Jr. comes and abducts the castle. And that was pretty cool to see that play out on the big screen. There was a moment though, when all this stuff was going on. They're in the Gateway Galaxy, and we see the Pikmin, we see Fox, we see all the Super Mario Brothers 2 enemies, and the
Sunshine characters.
The what do they call it from Isle Delfino?
Yeah, I can't remember their names. There's a lot of them.
Yeah. But so we get Rob.
Yes,
probably the least shoehorned in cameo, even though he is probably on screen almost as long as Fox because of the gag.
Yeah, he's very much the Zootopia DMV.
The sloth.
Yeah, like that. It's kind of that bit. But that was fun to see, and genuinely felt a little more natural than that. Pikmin is literally the camera pans over and shows a ship and some Pikmin getting out, and that's it.
It legitimately though would have been such a cool moment if they just let us not know that Fox was in this movie.
Yes.
And they're like, oh, we need a pilot. And they're like, oh, all the pilots are up on the flight deck. And then you go up and the Pikmin open up and like, oh, that's a cute little cameo. And then the camera pans and it's Fox. Like that would be like a holy crap moment.
It would have been. It would have been impactful if we hadn't seen that poster. And it was, it was really disappointing to learn that before the movie came out. And the way they even revealed it was kind of fun because it's not like he gets a grand reveal, like a slow motion, hey, it's me. It's kind of like he's in the background talking, and then it's just sort of he's there, kind of.
So there'd be like a moment of like, is that Fox back there?
Yeah.
But instead, as soon as he said, oh, we need a pilot, you're like, oh, well, that's where Fox comes in.
Yep, here comes Fox, yeah.
I don't know. I think that was a real fumble. And I said that last week's episode where I was just like, I don't know why they spoiled this.
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess because Glenn Powell voices him, that they wanted to get that out, that he's in the cast. But like maybe they could have been like, hey, Glenn Powell's in this. We're not going to tell you who it is.
Yeah, and then we all would have probably surmised, right? But that would have been fun on its own. Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't a leak. It was their
It was
decision.
official marketing.
Yeah, so I don't know. But yeah, the Fox. So yeah, Fox is very arbitrary. He literally tells a very quick backstory of getting sent to another dimension. So like this is not like he's not in the Mario universe,
which sets up a Smash Brothers movie for sure.
If you're concerned about Mario Brothers movie canon, like Star Fox does exist in another universe, and they have, I don't know, 2 minutes probably sequence of like 2D
quicker than that.
Yeah, like of 2D animation of him sort of explaining how he got there,
almost like anime style.
Yes, and which I liked a lot.
Yeah,
it's funny because I mean they could do a Fox movie. They could do a Star Fox movie. He's a fun character.
Falco, Peppy, and Slippy are all in that sequence,
and it looks cool as hell. Like I really like that 2D sequence, and if they do a movie, I'm sure it'll just be sort of the 3D visuals that Illumination does. But man, I would love just if they're gonna do a Star Fox movie, I would have loved. I'm pre-disappointed that it doesn't look like that sort of backstory sequence because I thought it looked so cool.
Do you think they're going to do a Star Fox movie? Because that was my thought process, was like, all right, the end of the movie, he's like, yeah, I found a way back to my universe.
Yeah.
I was like, man, that might be setting up. Like, there's that leak coming out. Spoilers for people who are not wanting to hear about the leaks from Nintendo's upcoming slate. But, there's that leak that we might be getting a Star Fox game this summer, which is, I think, why they plugged him into this movie, to get more mainstream consciousness and be like, hey, maybe let's see what happens if we put him in one of the biggest animated movies of all time. Let's see if that raises the consciousness enough to make this game sell better than every game in the franchise's history.
Yeah, right.
Because really, that's the reason that, aside from the fact that they just don't know what to do with Star Fox in gaming, like ever since Star Fox 64, it's just been throwing like darts at the wall and seeing what sticks. And unfortunately, Star Fox Zero was the last thing that came out, and it was bad.
I still want a switchboard of that. I'd like to revisit it. I don't think it's some hidden masterpiece. I played and beat it when it came out, but I just want to try it again. You know, I'm like,
without the second screen nonsense.
Yeah, even that was like fine. Like,
it was not.
It was kind of like
I hated it.
It was kind of like the movie. It was fine. But yeah, I mean, he is forced in there, but he is fun. And like, man, I love the design of the R-Wing, you know, and it's cool to see that rendered in, you know, this like high fidelity illumination entertainment. And like, it comes later in the movie, but it was one of those moments where I was like, oh, I wish we could have stuck with this soundtrack a little longer, where they do have like the opening theme from the Super Nintendo Star Fox.
Oh yeah,
which is like when you're going down the tunnel, it's like yeah, they just give you a little taste of it, and it's like it's wonderful.
They did that with the 64 theme as well.
Yeah,
there was a couple of times where like I was like kind of like thinking like, you know, back in 1998 when I'm obsessed with the N64, I love Mario 64, I love Star Fox 64. It would be insane to know that like, you know, almost 30 years in the future, or I guess 20 years in the 20, 30 years,
50,
30, okay, 50 years, 30 years. Sorry, I'm a writer, not a mathematician. Almost 30 years in the future, I would be watching a movie where Fox and Mario are flying through space and fighting Bowser and Bowser Jr.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. Yeah, he'll use a super scope to.
Yeah. So let me see what else we want to talk about here before we wrap up. I loved the part where Peach left and Mario and Luigi had to kind of like take care of all the problems. They do like this big montage of them going around to the different worlds, solving the problems, starting with like the Hammer Brothers on the blocks, and then, you know, going from there to like Luigi getting like the frog suit and, you know, just helping out different people. But like they did it with the overworld map.
Yes.
It looked very similar to the Mario World overworld map. And then like every time they accomplished a mission, the little flag popped up to like show like level complete. That was a really nice touch.
That's one of those things that it's like, yeah, just do it, man. Like just like let's like, this is why we're here. Is like just show us like cool visuals of like recognizable things from Mario. And yeah, I did enjoy that sequence a lot of them just running around the Mushroom Kingdom, basically doing this sort of like the vigilante superhero thing where they're just like stopping crime or whatever, you know, the thing that we've all kind of wanted from Spider-Man movies recently that we're not getting so much of, just like, let's just see them be like, you know, helpful in the world. So that was, I kind of forgot about that sequence, but I did like that a lot.
That was one of my favorite sequences in the movie, I think.
This episode is brought to you by Fandango. People say fans are too distracted these days, but the truth is, when a great movie hits the screen, you show up, you stay glued, invested, part of the story. And without fans like you, there'd be no cinema magic. No shared moments. So head to Fandango.com to get tickets, stream, or rent or buy top movies and series. Fandango loves fans.
Yeah. Let's talk about the final battle here.
Yeah.
So I guess let's talk about the final approach. So after Fox drops Mario, Luigi, Peach, and Toad, or Yoshi. Was Toad in that final? I don't think he was. I think it was Mario, Luigi, Yoshi, and Peach.
And I will say, it's telling that we haven't really talked about Yoshi. It's because that's about how impactful.
Yeah.
It was
So
to
the
me.
thing about well, before we talk about that, let's talk a little bit about Yoshi.
Yeah.
So I don't know why they paid so much money for Childish Gambino to voice him.
I mean, the most interesting thing about Yoshi to me was watching the movie and being like, huh, so that's Donald Glover?
Yeah,
doing
exactly.
that? Okay. All right, cool.
Like that's a lot of money to pay somebody just to say Yoshi and make it random grunts.
It's very Groot in
It is.
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, they
coded.
couldn't have to pay Vin Diesel all that money either, I guess.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. If I'm Donald Glover, I'm like, hey, do you want to be in the Mario movie? I'm like,
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, you know.
Like apparently he's a big gamer too.
Oh, yeah,
So like,
yeah.
he's probably super about that.
Yeah, Yoshi didn't really stand out to me in a huge way. Like
He's just a sidekick.
He's a sidekick. They ride him a little bit. He uses his tongue. He poops out some eggs. Like we were talking about earlier, how there's like really not many licensed tracks.
Mm-hmm.
He has the one licensed track that shows him walking around in the city.
Yeah.
Which is like, I'm okay with that because I don't even remember what song it was, but
It was Notorious B.I.G.
Right. But it was just the beat. It didn't have like the lyrics or anything.
No.
Right. Yeah. And it was Yoshi walking around the city to that song, which is like, I'm okay.
right?
Yeah. And I'm like cool with that in terms of like I really don't want licensed music in the movie, but that one was I was okay with.
It was the same thing with Super Mario Brothers movie where they did No Sleep Till Brooklyn when they were running. It's like they're in our world. Okay, that makes sense.
That's kind of how I feel. It's like they're in our world. Which Donkey Kong was there?
Yeah,
by the way?
very briefly.
Was that a thing in the last movie? He ended up in our world?
No, I don't think so. I think he was back in Donkey Kong Country.
Okay, it's like blink and you miss it.
That was probably a New Donk City reference because like he was kind of like it looked like the cops were after him and he was like throwing barrels or whatever, climbing a scaffolding.
It was one of those moments where I'm like, wait, and then, like my brain broke a little bit. I was like, wait, he's in the real world, and I was like, I really was like, I cannot dwell on this.
I
need
think
to
too much about this movie.
Which is like supposedly that's the next right. Did we ever talk about that? There's a Donkey Kong movie. Like they filed trademarks and things like that. So anyway, Seth Rogen is not in this movie. Like, no, Donkey Kong has a cameo, but it's like very brief. And
there's references to Donkey Kong. The Lumas are a fan of the Mario versus Donkey Kong fight. So the final battle. Mario, Luigi are the primary people fighting Bowser and Bowser Jr. I always want to call him Baby Bowser. But yeah, I mean, I think it was well choreographed. Like you said, every power up ever was. Well,
I like the environmental action in the sense, they had a whole sequence where they're running through basically the final level of Mario Brothers with the fireball,
love that
and stuff like. That stuff I like. That's like it's not fighting, but it's a gauntlet that they're running through. So like I enjoyed that whole sequence, but then they get into fisticuffs, and then I'm like less enthralled. But it was like Luigi had the cloud power up from Mario Galaxy, which I was like, oh, okay, that's a kind of a weird one that I'm not sure how he's going to use that. And Mario had the drill, which is another one that I was like, those are the two you pick.
Yeah,
huh?
Mario Wonder power up, the drill.
I thought you know what? You're right because in Galaxy.
Is that the first Mario Wonder reference? Yeah, because the first one came out before Mario Wonder.
Yeah, because in Galaxy you have a drill you can hold. Oh, did I? I just want to make sure I'm still recording because I did press a button by accident.
Hit it again.
Is it working now?
It's working now.
But yeah, in Galaxy you can hold a drill and go underground, but in Wonder that's actually
it's on his head.
Okay. Wonder's a terrible game that I haven't played. So.
Kyle is a terrible human being who just hates joy.
Who just doesn't particularly like Mario Wonder. And also Yoshi had the like inflatable power.
Yeah,
which is a good gag. Actually,
it is, but like it plays into one of my least favorite tropes in like a big like climactic battle, and that's just like they're defeated by a fluke.
Oh sure,
like Bowser's like, here, get him out of my way, and like Yoshi goes flying off like a balloon that you let go of the knot. And then like knocks Bowser Jr. out or whatever, and it's like, okay, well, I guess that's how the heroes won.
Yeah, it's like a lot of this movie. It's just kind of arbitrary stuff, right? Like it's just they kind of end up in places randomly, and they kind of do random things. And is that Fox McCloud? It's kind of the takeaway. I feel like I'm coming. Really, like I'm being really rude to the movie, which is fun, but it's fine, Brian. It's fine.
So, last thing I want to talk about here. I guess we can. One more thing after this.
There's a spoiler we haven't touched on.
Yeah, this is I think the biggest. I guess like if you want to get into lore implications, but we learn about I guess the start of the third act that Peach and Rosalina are sisters.
Yeah, cool.
That's a revelation, I guess, from the games that I don't think they've touched on.
Yeah, I guess the question is like, is that canon in the games? I mean, what is Mario canon ultimately? Really, there is no such thing.
Yeah, because they're all actors in plays.
Yeah,
like the line.
Yeah, Mario. Miyamoto's described them as almost like Popeye characters at one time of just like they're just characters that can do whatever you want them to do.
That's why they can go kart or go and like run around a board game.
So I'm not really concerned with like canon, but like within the movie there's canon because it is narrative focused. I thought it was cool. Like I think it's like a fun thing. I liked seeing like older Rosalina and like baby Peach together like on their barren planet that I don't know how they sort of survived or ate or anything. But I don't like I am actually like really when it comes to watching a movie in the theater, I'm very susceptible to like just anything resembling something close to emotion, and I will tear up like a little bit, like even over the most minor like weird things in a movie theater. I don't know why. Maybe it's because I don't feel enough in normal life. But like when they're reunited and like it's like clear that they're like sisters and they love each other and they like embrace. Like I was kind of like, oh, that's nice, you know. Like I welled up a little bit, but like I'm really giving it a lot of credit. It was not like a beautifully choreographed emotional like build up or anything. It was just like, oh, it's nice that these sisters get back together.
I was about to say, I'm a baby when it comes to like movies and like emotional moments. I didn't feel a single emotion.
I was a little shocked that I'm like, huh, okay. I guess I just like young women being friends. I guess
it's a sweet thing. Yeah. You're a father of a daughter, so that makes sense.
Yeah, but please don't misconstrue that as like, you know what? There's this one powerful moment there is not.
But let's talk the post-credit scenes. There's two, one mid-credit, one post-credit. So the mid-credit is Bowser. Dry Bowser. We didn't talk about Dry Bowser. Did not expect to see Dry Bowser because basically resurrected dead Bowser is the way. But yeah, it's fun that Mario defeats him originally by using the axe to cut the bridge and have him fall into the lava.
Yeah. That whole sequence started and he's got the axe in there on a bridge and I was like, okay,
immediately
I see what you guys are doing happening. And I'm okay with it.
Yes, exactly. I'm like, come on, get to the part we all are waiting for.
Yeah.
But so Bowser or Dry Bowser and Bowser Jr. are in the prison and the tortured Luma from Mario Brothers movie it shows up. It's the only time that she shows up.
Right. And there's a lot of Lumas, but
this is the first time that Luma has shown up.
Yeah.
So I don't know, fun little gag, I guess. I mean, I wish they didn't spoil that in the trailer either.
What is it? Ben Hansen from MinMax was there with us, and he made the point as we were watching the credits that it was like, basically the Luma is like everyone's going to die someday. Yeah, and that's kind of the end of the movie. And I was like, wow, yeah, that's true.
I think that's probably why they put because normally what you do in like I watch a lot of superhero movies. And the way that they usually do it is the mid-credit scene is the important thing for like the lore and like moving the story forward. And the final credit scene is like the gag. I wonder if they had that originally to like be flip-flopped. And then they're like, we can't send people home on that's the inevitable sound or that's the sound of inevitable death marching its way towards you.
Is that what the line was?
It's something like that.
It was, it made me laugh.
And but then we got a second credit scene and it was Daisy's arrival in the Super Mario Brothers cinematic universe.
Yeah, and it was like we basically explained the whole scene with that sentence. Like she's there.
She punches a monkey.
Does she punch? Gosh, I've already forgotten.
Yeah,
okay,
so the monkey stole
Yeah.
somebody's stuff, which he did earlier in the movie, and then while he's running away, a gloved fist goes through his face, and then camera pans over, and it's Daisy,
which is cool.
Yeah,
I think we were all hoping for a Wario or a Waluigi.
I was thinking it was going to be a Wario fist, but
but Daisy's fun. I like Daisy. I mean, Luigi said he said something along the lines of like, I wish I had a girlfriend or something, or maybe he was trying to convince Mario to ask Peach out on a date, and he was like, and then she can ask her if she has any friends.
Yeah,
I was like, oh yeah, he's Daisy's,
which is the lady. Weird plot of a game that I'm playing right now that I can't really talk too much about. Mario and Peach are dating.
What game is this? You'll have to tell me.
It's Tomodachi Life Living.
Okay. You can bleep that out, I guess.
But Kyle, that is all for our rundown of the Super Mario Galaxy movie. Overall, positive.
Yeah.
Overall, fine.
Fun. Like a bad movie, but like, I don't know. Even that is too strong.
It's not a bad movie because it's geared towards kids.
Yes.
It's not like the movie that like I think that like us you're in our late 30s or
I'm 40, baby.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
God. That's a legal podcast.
I'm sorry to reveal that in this podcast, but last year.
World premiere. But yeah, so like it's not the movie that we would want in our age, but like it's a great family movie. I think it's going to do $1 bajillion in the box office.
Yeah.
And I think it's overall a very fun movie.
It's fun.
It's a fun continuation of the last movie. Yeah. If you like the last movie, I think you will like this movie just as much, if not more.
Yeah, and I think I did like this one more because I like the soundtrack more. I like Fox being in there. I like the galaxy of it all because I love Mario Galaxy. But it is sort of it's sort of dramatic, like plot inert. Like there's just things happen for the sake of happening, and it looks great. and there's fun stuff you'll see, but it's not like it's not a movie I'm going to be like revisiting. I don't think. Yeah,
I mean, I'll probably watch it again when it comes out on streaming or whatever. But
yeah.
I saw the Super Mario Brothers movie 3 times in the span of a week because I went to the screener before I interviewed the cast. Then they were like, "Oh, do you want to come to the premiere too?" So I went to the premiere later that week, and then I already had a ticket to see it with my now fiance. So I was like, "Well, I'm not going to ditch her."
Right? Yeah,
I've already seen it twice. I'm going to go again on opening night.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, that's a lot of Mario. I do. My sort of bold prediction is that I think you're right in that this movie will do really well, but I think it will like quote unquote disappoint in comparison to the first movie.
That's in contrast to my guest last week who said it's going to become the highest grossing animated movie of all time.
That's what you said?
That's what my guest last week said.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean,
I think it's going to beat Zootopia 2 and whatever the number 1 is. I forget what it is.
My sort of thing with that is that kids and like there are a lot of kids who are very excited about this, but like a lot of people like myself like got kind of seeing Mario on screen out of their system, like the sort of adults. And I could be wrong. Like maybe it does, overperform compared to the first one.
Wonder if movie tickets are more expensive now than they were. That also plays a role.
Yeah, I'm curious to see.
The economy is not in a great spot right now, so that also might.
But there's a lot of movies that are doing great, but go see Project Hail Mary instead. But this it's fine.
Very, very similar movies.
They're both in space, and they both have a fun sidekick, an unexpected sidekick. Yeah, and Ryan Gosling and Glenn Powell are like basically the same person, basically.
Well, all right. Well, thank you so much for joining me for this episode. And
thanks for inviting me to this screening.
Yeah, absolutely. You're my +1.
That's right.
But you can read my full review over on GameInformer.com. But Kyle, that is going to be our show for this week. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. As you know, my Patreon and the associated Discord server are the best places to get in touch with me. But you can also reach out, Brian at allthingsnintendo.com, or hit me up on social media at Brian P. Shea. Kyle, what about you?
Blue Sky, KyleHilliard.com.
That is our show for this week. Thank you again for listening. Take care. We'll see you next time. Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to this episode of All Things Nintendo. I really hope you enjoyed it. Before we get out of here, I just want to give a special thank you to the $10 patrons of the podcast. Alex Stadnick, Andy Junkins, Ben Richland, Big Mitch, Chad Brecky, Chaps My Ass, Derek Sigmund, Dusty Beeman, Ian T. Clark, Jawar Hello, Johnny Five, Jose Villalobos, Joshua DeProy, Casey Radioman, Cody Gibson, Creeper207, Ozman83, Paul at Drunk on Mako, Pratable, Rob McCann, Bobby Mac 265, Robert Sosa, Roberto Nieves, Roger Reichart, Russell Sayer, Smithy Poo, Zane Sink, and Zek 3 Swords Sama. I know I say it every single week, but it is only because of the people I just named and the other folks who support me on Patreon that this show is able to continue every single week. Thank you so very much.
Hey there, Hugh from Podderation here. If you like today's show, why not have a listen to Board Gamers Anonymous, one of the longest running board game podcasts out there. Join Anthony and Chris every week as they discuss everything in the board game world, from card games to miniature games and more. They talk about some of their favourites and hopefully help you find your next ones. If you want to check the show out, you can find more information at podderation.com.